I don't know about you, but sometimes when I've been doing something for a while, I start to get a bit bored of it. It starts to grate on me. I lose my enthusiasm. And that is kind of what's happened with the shrimp tanks behind me. Over the last few weeks, I've made fewer videos and I've spent less time with my shrimps because the interest level has just started to wane. Luckily, I've got a plan to fix it. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Richard and I'm a shrimp and fish keeper based in the UK. So here's what I've decided to do. I've decided to rearrange the tanks behind me and bring in some new stock to make the whole thing more interesting and give me the ability to make yet more videos to hopefully inform and entertain you guys. So let's go through the tanks one by one and I can tell you what I've done and why I've done it. So we'll start off up here in the top right. In that tank there, lovely little planted cube, I had my orange really shrimp. Now many of you will know that I was unfortunate enough that I bought 10 shrimp from the store. One passed away early on and the remaining 9 all turned out to be female, giving me no options to breed them. I love breeding shrimp, but that to me is probably the best part of the hobby. So I kept them for a while, but what I've decided to do is I've taken 4 or 5 of those orange really shrimp and added them to my Skittles tank. And the other 4 I've given away to a buddy of mine who's just decided he wants to build a breeding colony of orange really shrimp. He's got himself some, chucked my 4 females into the mix. I think within a few months' time he'll have enough to start bringing them back into my tanks. With that tank being emptied, I decided the best thing to do was to take the pea puffers who were in this tank here, 3 small pea puffers, and move them into that tank there. Why move the pea puffers? Well, the tank they were in was the only tank in my collection which was absolutely covered in algae. Now, I don't mind algae. Algae is not a bad thing. Algae is natural. It helps process waste. It gives somewhere for the shrimp to pick at and feed on. The trouble is, in that particular tank, the entire tank was swamped. Why was that? I believe it's because there were no snails in there. Pea puffers are little murder balls. They go around and kill any snail they come across, even if they're not going to eat it. If I put 10 snails in there, they'll probably eat 5 and just kill the other 5 because that's what they do. I love snails in my fish and shrimp tanks because the snails eat the uneaten food. They break down the fish poop and they help keep the algae under control. They don't eradicate it totally. You can't solve a complete algae problem by putting 2 snails in, but they do help keep the algae under control. And this tank here that had the pea puffers in had just become a soup of algae. It was on the plants, the rocks, the glass. And although I was cleaning the front glass, the whole tank just became, well, it looked horrible. It was not a pleasure to look at, and I certainly couldn't film it. So I've taken these 3 guys and I've moved them across here. Now, before I moved them, there were probably 15 or 20 small snails in there. Last night when I turned the lights out, this morning, not a snail to be seen. They've either eaten them or, just as I say, killed them, because that's what pea puffers do. I'm hoping they're going to be happy up there. So what have I done with their tank? Well, as I say, it was an absolute algae mess. I've stripped everything out. I've binned the plants, I cleaned the front glass, I've ditched the substrate. I came up with the fabulous idea that I would take my neon blue crayfish, who was down here in the tank behind me, and move him up there. He's a fabulous little character. I love him. I love feeding him. I love watching him. The only problem is, the reason I don't make more videos about him is he only really comes out when the lights are off. I'll almost never see him when the lights are on. Now, it's just a tank full of rock and stones and plants. But if I have the lights off and I've got an ambient light on, he's out and about. It's really great fun to interact with, but he's terrible to film. Now, here's the problem. I decided with this tank, I put some gravel on the bottom, a few rocks, some flower pots to give him caves, and I came up with a fabulous idea. A big rock in the corner, filled the void behind it with fluval stratum, planted it up. He's got a few caves, he's got a few plants. Fantastic. What can go wrong? What can go wrong, it turns out, was that the neon blue crayfish wanted to dig out all of the fluval stratum and create this cloudy almighty mess, which I have water changed twice already, and he's dug himself down, made a nice little hole to sit in, ignored the caves I built for him. Fabulous. What a winning combination that looks. I may have to take him out, rescape the tank without the stratum, put it all back together, make him an additional cave, pop him back in, and then hopefully the water will be clear and I'll be able to get some footage. So for now, the neon blue crayfish, he's quite happy, tucked in his cave in that tank up there. Next along, in this one here, I did have Brian, the blue betta. Brian, I think he's the angriest betta in the world. You only have to go near the tank and he's up and flaring and he wants to fight the entire world. I've taken him out of there and I've moved him down here. I'm hoping it's got a dark background and a dark substrate. I'm hoping he'll feel a bit more relaxed in there and won't feel quite so exposed. And hopefully he won't be quite so aggressive. My plan had been to put some blue shrimp in with him, but he's such a feisty little fish, I think he would just eat them. So I'm going to leave him on his own. I've moved him down here. So what am I doing with this tank? Well, I've taken about 20 or 30 red cherry shrimp from the main colony and I've put them up there. And to live with them, I've ordered a dozen ember tetras. Ember tetras are stunning little fish. How such a tiny fish can contain so much deep, bright red colour, I have no idea. In the 155 in the room next door, I had a colony of about 30 ember tetras. I had them for about 5 or 6 years. For such a tiny fish, I have no idea how they live so long. I just have one little ember tetra left in there, and I'm going to catch him out and add him to the dozen or so up here. Now, I've also ordered for this tank here a red betta. I think red cherry shrimp, the red ember tetras, and the red betta against the fluval stratum and the greenery of the plants. I'm hoping that's going to be a fantastic tank to be able to film and enjoy and share with you guys. Now, next to that tank, I've got the yellow cherry shrimp. And these guys are fantastic. They're breeding really well. I've always struggled with yellow cherry shrimp because for some reason, I get them. The babies grow into adults. The adults produce babies and then just randomly die. I have no other shrimp in my care. It just turns its toes up like the yellows do. But it seems that they're absolutely fine until they hit adulthood and then they just drop down dead. So anyway, I've got a great little army of yellow cherry shrimp in there. And to go with them, I've ordered myself 5 yellow cobra male guppies. And the reason I've only gone for males is I don't want them to breed. It's only a 7-odd gallon tank. But 5 males will fit in there, an absolute treat. And these yellow cobras will look absolutely superb, I think, against the sand and the green plants and the yellow cherry shrimp. I think that's going to be a top-notch tank. That might be the one I'm most excited about. We'll get some movement in there, get some colour, and I'm hoping the shrimp have got enough cover and they will be big enough that the males won't pick them off. But if it does turn into a bit of carnage, I'll take the guppies out and move them to another tank. I wouldn't want to see all my shrimp get eaten. So dropping down to the next layer, I've got this wonderful colony of black rose shrimp. Now, these shrimp are breeding there's an absolute mass of black rose shrimp babies in there. And black roses don't always breed true. I'm going to end up with some browns and some blues and some goodness knows what else. And I will thin that colony out and cull out any that don't have the intense black colour of the black rose shrimp. But I've ordered myself to go in there half a dozen celestial pearl danios or galaxy rasboras. And if you've never seen the galaxy rasbora, which most of you must have done by now, is a stunning little fish, great for a nano tank, really colourful, males and females. And I'm hoping half a dozen in that little planted tank. It could look absolutely stunning. I cannot wait to get them in there. And with a bit of luck, I might even be able to get the celestial pearl danios to breed and produce some babies, which would be absolutely fantastic. Really can't wait to get them in. Now, as mentioned in the tank behind me, which did have the blue cherry shrimp in, I took the blue cherries, I put 3 or 4 in the Skittles tank, which I built the other week. And the others, my buddy who's breeding the orange really shrimp, he also wants to breed blue cherry shrimp. So again, I've given him half a dozen of mine to add to his colony he's just purchased. And again, at some point in the future, if he's successful, he'll give me back some babies. We'll bring them back into one of these tanks and they'll be fabulous. I moved Brian, the betta, from above to down here. And I'm hoping, well, he's eaten his own weight in bloodworms since I moved him. So I'm hoping he's going to be a bit more relaxed in there and start to allow me to film him more without flaring up and being all aggressive and, I want to fight the world. So let's see how he goes. On this side, that leaves me the main red cherry shrimp colony. And my plan here is I've taken some out, put them up top, as I say. In the room next door, the 155, which was a tetra community tank, Congo tetras, rummy nose tetras, cardinal tetras, ember tetras. I had pearl gouramis in there. That tank ran for about 6 years now. And in fact, you can see that in some of my earlier videos. I used it as the background. A lot of those fish, they've lived their lives, they've run their course. 5-6 years for a tetra is a good life, to be fair. And those numbers have petered off quite considerably in the last 6 to 8 months. I'm going to take the remaining fish that are in there, the Congo tetras, the rummies, there's some Corydoras. I'm going to pop them in here. It's a little bit small for the Congos, but they're old. They don't dart around like they used to. They don't spawn every day like they used to. I think they'll be all right in there. The 155 next door, I am going to tear that down and I'm going to rebuild it as an angelfish tank. And with probably 100 or 200 tetras in. I'm going to try and pack it out. Maybe silvertip tetras or lemon tetras. Something we don't always see on YouTube, but I can share with you guys. And I'll hopefully document that whole process for you. So this tank's going to become a bit of a catch-all, almost a cull tank for now, just to hold what I've got left in there. They can live out their life happily, and once they're no longer with us, we'll do something fresh with this tank. Now that leaves me with the little 29 gallon on the bottom shelf. Unfortunately, I'm having to move out my 47 gallon goldfish tank because I need the space for something else. So I've taken the 4 fancy goldfish, I've put them down there in the 29 gallon, which is tight. Before you put in the comments, I know that's tight for 4 fancy goldfish, but I do 75 to 80% water changes each week anyway. And as long as I keep an eye on the water parameters, they'll be absolutely fine down there. They'll bumble around quite happily, picking through the gravel, no doubt destroying my plants, and eating as much food as I can chuck in there. And all that leaves on this side is the Skittles tank, which I set up the other week, and you have hopefully seen the video on that. That is a tank I'm really enjoying. Yes, the pleasure is probably short term. Yes, in the long term, it will probably become a tank full of wild type Neocaridina shrimp, and all of those beautiful colours will be lost. But for now, I'm really enjoying it as a tank. And if you wanted to see how I made that tank, watch this video next. Thanks for watching.